ultimately, whenever you start your self-improvement journey, there's going to be a part where someone's going to mention to you about journaling or gratitude or something to do with you writing things down, writing your thoughts down, actively writing something. You should absolutely start to do this. I know I mentioned in a previous video, like, of the top 3 things being really just to read and also to work out and stuff. But I think a lot of the times we always pump ourselves out with content. We always pump ourselves up with all this content, all these things for our minds to be preoccupied with, but we don't really have a way of letting it out. You know how, like, some days you just feel like almost packed up? It's almost like your mind is just packed up, like racing with these thoughts and these feelings and, these ideas that, eventually you're just going to forget about. Something that has been absolutely done wonders for me is simply just writing that stuff down. Like, I'll have a I'll have a notebook, and I don't look at this as like a daily practice. I really look at it as, like, there's certain days where I will just write things down for hours at a day. I wouldn't put it down as like one of your like daily habits. It's something that's really powerful, like, whenever you seriously need it. Now, I will tell you that if you want to try to practice, like, daily gratitude, then yeah, definitely try to do it every single day. I do that every single day. But at least for journaling, when it comes to just writing down your thoughts, when it comes to writing down your feelings, it's one of those things that, like, at first you're really gonna like, you're gonna feel like some resistance to it because it's something new. I mean, you're not used to just sitting down, writing on a piece of paper about your feelings. It's always been you writing down about somebody else. You wrote about somebody else, like in school, or you wrote something else for somebody else. But this is just writing to yourself. You can be completely honest. There's no filter. You just write to yourself, man. Write down what exactly the thoughts is coming from your mind. And at first it's going to be difficult just because, I mean, this might be one of the first times you're actually thinking for yourself. We live in this world where, like, we're always, like, working for somebody else. We're always thinking for somebody else that we never actually have time to, like, just talk about ourselves, man. Like, and journaling up is actually going to help you open up more, because there's things that you can't really express to people. Maybe it's due to school, or maybe it's just your inability to just speak with other people. I used to be that way. I was not articulate at all. I could not actually speak around other people, like, about feelings that I felt, because like, in school, like I said, you're always talking about other people, and you can never actually look within. You can never actually, like, speak about yourself. And I've always been, like, an introverted kind of guy. And it was only whenever I started to read and write that's whenever I actually started to, like, be able to speak a lot clearer. Like, people could actually understand what I'm trying to say. These deeper thoughts and ideas that I'm speaking about, I could actually explain it to people in a way that's actually concise, in a way they could actually understand. So the biggest thing really is that you're really channeling a lot of your energy, like, and when I'm telling you about this, you should definitely try to write it. Don't try to type it down, like, on a piece of paper, because, like, one of my favorite YouTubers, Cal Rom, he spoke about this, is that whenever you're typing stuff down, or like tapping, like, the screen, it's just being distilled among your fingertips, while, like, on a piece of paper, everything's being focused on just the piece of paper. It's not on the keys, but on the pen, focused on your piece of paper. We can type so much faster than we can actually write. Whenever you actually sit down and just write your thoughts, you're so much more connected with it, because you can see it. You can go back to it. It's physical. A lot of us struggle with a lot of intrusive thoughts, a lot of just compulsive ideas, just persistent things that your brain keeps throwing at you. And we always try to figure out a way to, like, block it out, instead of trying to figure out the reason why our brain is trying to tell us this to begin with. Your brain is not stupid. It's giving you these ideas because it wants you to actually focus on it. Your brain keeps getting upset because it's thinking about one girl, or your brain keeps getting upset because it's thinking about like how you missed a workout. Just journal about it. Write your feelings about it. This is gonna sound like foreign to you if you've never done this before, but seriously, like, just sit down and spend some time just writing about yourself. And like I said, stop making this seem like a. I feel like out of all the self improvement things that like we try to put in our life, this is probably one of the biggest one. But I wouldn't tell you to do it every single day, because that's not the way I look at journaling. I journal on the days whenever, like, I absorb a lot of content, and there's so many thoughts racing in my mind about what the content means, and like the stuff that I got from it, the stuff I didn't really get from it, and I'll just write it down. Or if I'm having like a really rough day, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, like, what actually went wrong, and what are just things that like I just kind of made a big deal about. You'll find that journaling just makes you so much more of a complete person. A lot of the times I think it's almost as though we have like, I like to think of it as gears. Like, we just have like one gear here, another gear here. And whenever like one gear is messed up, like, it doesn't have the other gear to rely on. It's just this gap. I always characterize it as a gap, because we have like the inability to be able to express our ideas, or the inability to actually, like, when a problem shows up, like, what we do to come back from it. And this is really great for you. Whenever I first failed a PR, this is whenever I was first starting to live. I failed to hit 135 on my bench because I jumped way too quickly. And I just started writing, because I already had the habit of writing before that. And I just wrote. I wrote like 3 pages on like how I failed 135. Like, it wasn't like a short brisk thing. It was like 3 pages on just how I hit it, because like it sincerely like kind of hurt me. It hurt my ego. Journaling can really help destroy that ego that you possess. Now, ego is not necessarily always a bad thing, but it's something that a lot of us, we carry this bad version of it just simply due to the habits that we surround ourselves with. So if you're struggling to almost feel like you struggle to have like that process, the process to how you're going to reach something, the process to what you're going to do after you reach something, journaling is something that's going to save your life, brother. It's going to save your life. Journaling saved my life. If it wasn't for the fact that instead of me going out and doing something stupid after I broke up with my ex, or after I didn't hit my PR, or after just anything bad happened in my life, if it wasn't for journaling, then I really, like, I don't know, I was in a really dark place a few years ago in my life, like, very dark place in my life. I had no hope at all. I literally would wake up and just sit in my bed for hours. There was even one day where I didn't go to school just because I couldn't get up out of bed. It got that bad because I didn't really have a way of really expressing my feelings. It felt as though like I could talk to people, but it wasn't really like a great way of like expressing it. You know, we have stuff like therapy, and you know, for the people who therapy genuinely work for, that's great. But like for people like me, it was really more of a problem within rather than trying to kind of disperse it out telling somebody else. It was one of those things where it's like the only way that I was able to actually truly like kind of cope with it, if that's what you want to call it, cope, is to just really just express it, like just let it out on a piece of paper, write down how I feel, because afterwards, whenever you just write everything out in your brain, it's almost as though like all your problems is just on this piece of paper, and you can look at it and see, and then it's not as complex as you thought it was. It's almost like your mind instinctively knows, like, okay, you let it out, you let these problems out, now it's time to fix it. Journaling's probably, besides like meditation and weightlifting, it's probably one of the things that has like seriously saved my life, to be honest with you. And I've been journaling long before I started lifting weights or reading books. But I will tell you this, that I really started to make it more of like a genuine like habit once I read Matthew McConaughey's Greenlight book. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically Matthew McConaughey just talking about his life. It's like a autobiography just about himself. It's a really great book if you want, if you just like, because he comes from a very tough life. He comes from, it's not an easy life, and he just talks about the lessons he's learned and like the paths the paths he didn't take, and where it led him to where he is now. And what's funny is that he always talks about how ever since he was a little kid, he would always journal all the time. He would always journal his thoughts. And I just thought that was something like, it really struck with me. It was like, it really stuck with me. It was like, he wrote for his entire life. Every time he had like a bad day, he would just write it down. Every time something crazy would happen, he would just write it down. Something good, bad. So no wonder like he's just so connected with himself. And I envy that, and I've been trying to replicate that as well. And it's such a beautiful practice if you use it the right way. Like I said, I encourage you not to make it seem like it's a duty, but more as though like a way to really just like remediate yourself, if that makes any sense. Because I don't want you to look at it as something, it's like a job. Don't look at it like a job. It's good for you. It's something that you should honestly, like, there's going to be times where you don't enjoy it, obviously. But, like, to be honest with you, like, the feeling afterwards almost feels just quite relieved. It's almost like to just get all that pressure, like, just get that pressure, those thoughts in your mind. Like, I've talked about this before, how, like, when I was, like, 15 years old, like, I was diagnosed with, like, clinical depression and, like, OCD as well. And then I thought, okay, that's the reason why I have all these intrusive thoughts. But to be honest with you, the moment that I started just meditating, just learning how to meditate, and the moment that I actually started to learn how to write my thoughts, learn how to create this output of my thoughts, this is whenever my mental health, like, got so much better. Like, I can sit here and tell you guys with a smile that, like, I feel so much better than I was. And it wasn't through medication or through therapy. It was simply, oh my God. It fell over the worst moment. The wind's so strong. I really started to just grow as a person whenever I started just investing in myself, man. I started just doing, like, really good habits. So just start writing. It could be today. Just sit down, start writing. Start writing about your feelings. Start writing about, like, experiences you had throughout the day. Start investing time into yourself. That's all I have for you.